Speedway Report is a production of ZTV. Now, in South Dakota, we race. Matt Kenseth, we race. Ryan Newman, we race. We've got all this and more. Oh, yeah, busy day here. Speedway Report, Monday, April the 27th, 2020. We are live from the shores of Lake Norman in Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. I'm Patrick Reynolds, and thank you for joining the fastest half hour in racing. We gave Facebook's new live platform a test drive last week. We're using the previous version. If you notice any difference, some bugs still to work out. We're flip-flopping back and forth, tech stuff, blah, blah, blah. You get the gist. We'll be on one eventually, as Facebook is always an ever-changing module. But thank you for joining us. As soon as the COVID-19 health situation is over, we can freely upgrade our equipment and get things loaded back up to YouTube as well. I won't bore you with all the technicalities, but just thanks for watching the show. Anything that's wrong, I will fix as soon as possible. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. But thank you all for joining us. I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy during this pandemic. And we've got racing to talk about. iRacing? Heck no. It's not real racing. I'm not going to report on it as a result. No. We raced cars, actual cars, real racing at Park Jefferson Speedway, Sioux Falls, South Dakota this past weekend. On the dirt, the 410 Sprint Car A Main was won by Brock Zierfoss, and the IMCA Modified feature was won by Ricky Thornton Jr. How good does it feel just for me to say that, and hopefully you to just hear that? We had a race. There were results. There were qualifying, time trials, heats, B mains, A mains. And we got the two A-main winners right there. I think it was fantastic. Now, obviously, situation was bent to accommodate, we'll call it. But we'll touch on that little details about racing and how things look as show to show, week to week now. The COVID-19 situation definitely changes the details on what I tell you guys. But today, well, this morning I put up some promotions for Speedway Report on my social media and live here on Facebook, and I'm glad I didn't tag any cell lines on that. Lo and behold, I woke up this morning. We're going to have a good show tonight. We'll pay attention to what happens today, see what happens with the pandemic, talk about this big dirt race up in South Dakota, and we get a bomb dropped on us. Mic drop by Chip Ganassi, as Kyle Larson, we all know, has been relieved of his driving duties of the number 42. If you haven't heard yet today, if you've been off social media, Matt Kenseth will return to the NASCAR Cup Series and replace Kyle Larson in the 42 for Chip Ganassi Racing. He'll be in the cockpit when we get back to racing, which we believe will be May 17th or so in Darlington, South Carolina. Now, this was but it was a big drop, and that nobody really saw this coming. I understand it fully, what Chip Ganassi did here, but who saw this coming? There were all kinds of predictions ahead of time as to who would go in. We knew he needed a replacement. Chip was going to put someone in there, and Matt Kenseth, yeah, I'll admit, I sarcastically said, yeah, I saw it coming a mile away. Nobody really did. I mean, Matt Kenseth does not live that far from me. He lives down the road figuratively. Not like we run over to each other to borrow a cup of milk or anything, but we're in the same section of town. We live on a long street that juts out into Lake Norman. He and I live we're in the same area of town somewhat. A little bit different of a tax code, but yeah, Matt Kenseth and I do vote at the same firehouse down the road. I know, I've seen him there. So Kenseth is going to return to the Cup Series. He never really wanted to leave anyway. As far as his retirement, it was, I wouldn't say forced, but as far as the business model go with where he was in the 20-car Joe Gibbs Racing and contracts and sponsors and let's call it what it is, money, he found himself out of that ride, which was a winning ride. He's got no interest in coming back to the Cup Series in something that can't win week in and week out. He's got 2 Daytona 500 wins. He's the 2003 Series champion. Tons of race wins, definite Hall of Famer down the road, Xfinity wins, short track wins. The guy's a class act. Joey Logano fans will argue with me on that. However, Kenseth will be returning to the Cup Series. Chip did this to us once before, in the 42 car, as a matter of fact, when we all were wondering who was going to step into it during a driver change period. You remember? 2006. A lot of speculation as to who would go in the 42 car. Lo and behold, out of nowhere, with a problem at BMW in Formula One, Juan Pablo Montoya's name came up as he drove for Chip in the Champ Car days, won the Indianapolis 500, left the United States, went to Europe to race, native of Colombia, and in 2006 he touched back here, started stock car racing, and in 2007 he was off and running with full-time gigs in the Cup Series as well as a whole lot of races. Was it the Nationwide Series at the time in 2007? I think so. Any event, he did this once before with us with Juan Pablo Montoya. So this is not new for Chip Ganassi, where the entire racing world goes, "What? Dude, what did you just do?" Scored a good win. That's what he did. Hashtag Chip Ganassi, hashtag I like winners. He's got one in Matt Kenseth. What's the latest with Kyle Larson? Fired from the ride out of NASCAR for the time being. He will take sensitivity training, which is typically a 2 to 4 week program. When he completes that, Kyle Larson is free to request reinstatement to NASCAR. I am unsure positively if he has begun the sensitivity training. If I was in Kyle Larson's shoes, well, they wouldn't fit anyway, wrong size. However, I think I'd want to get going on this immediately and try to get the process rolling. This will be, he's got a tough blow in his career to try to overcome. I'd want to get started on it right away. So what does Ganassi get in Matt Kenseth? Well, he's got an older guy, a mature guy, established, lots and lots to his resume, and stability and championships. This is somewhat different than Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson fit a very strong, good demographic, which everybody's after, that, that 24 to 35 range, 21 to 35, 18 to 34, whatever it is. But Larson fit into that demographic, which is so popular with so many companies, sports, businesses, things of that nature. Well, all the sponsors there, that we saw what happened to Kyle Larson and the releases, boom, boom, one after another, they all severed ties with him. So I think all those sponsors and those big corporations were looking for something different from that, a opposite, so to speak, and you get an established guy. Kyle Larson's still on the way up. You get somebody who's got the respect already because of his resume. Kyle Larson still had to earn a lot of that. It was still out in front of him with his career as far as how many wins or championships he would have come up with. And then you purposely take Matt Kenseth out of that demographic. This puts all the sponsors, all those millions of dollars, in it's a safer world. They are now attached to a safer type of guy that doesn't fit the same mold. If you cover up Kyle Larson's name on paper and write down what he's got as far as demographics, stats, and all that, and you put Matt Kenseth on there, you're really removing yourself from one demographic to another. It's a safe bet, but you got a driver that can still very capable of winning races. I don't know how this is going to work for the championship as far as playoffs, how many races we miss, and waivers. I don't know how that works. Playoffs makes my skin crawl anyway. So we've got a different demographic of a guy, but a guy that absolutely can still put them in victory lane and contend for a title. Maybe if they get this waiver, which, gosh, championship, playoff, stock car racing waivers, shoot me now. Bring back the old system. I'm a Bob Latford fan. Bob Latford should be in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, not the chase or the playoffs. But these sponsors that were on there, say McDonald's, say Chevrolet, Credit One, they were all under a microscope from what happened. They really, from a business point of view, had no choice but to sever their ties with Kyle Larson. Now they're on the spotlight, under the microscope. Throw your cliche in there. What are they going to do for the next driver? Matt Kenseth fits the bill. A safe guy, respected guy, and he can step forward and put that car right in victory lane. Ross Chastain was generally the favored name to go into the 42 as being all the way under contract with Ganassi. He is still very strong in the Ganassi fold. That was my pick, as I would imagine Ross would have gotten a Cup ride within a year or two, but he's still got a big Xfinity Series ride and eligible for the Xfinity Series Championship. He'll finish that out this year, but he's still under the Ganassi wing, so to speak, and the entire team and organization to still have plans for Ross Chastain. He was just everybody's pick, not everybody's pick, my picks. Chastain will go in the car. They just bump him up a year or two, and that'll be that. We've seen it happen with Daniel Suarez. We've seen it happen with Joey Logano. I figured Chastain was just the next style of name where it's like you're going to bring him up to the Cup Series anyway. We had an unforeseen circumstance. Put him in there now. You're going to do it. Nobody saw Matt Kenseth coming. Nobody. If they did, they tell them they're lying. Another guy, interesting point, that was considered for the Ganassi car, Carl Edwards. A championship contender, multiple race wins, definitely would have fit the bill just like Matt Kenseth. Older, experienced, and still able to get the job done with race wins and contend for a title. Certainly, Carl Edwards would have been neat to see as well. However, he declined the offer in all of the discussions as they put the names together and figured out who they were going to go with. So Matt Kenseth, neighbor, welcome back to the Cup Series. It will be good to see you back on track again. When are we going to get on track again? I don't know, but we'll talk. Well, I kind of know. We'll talk about that shortly. Right now, let's talk about what was literally on track over the weekend. At Park Jefferson Speedway in South Dakota, I looked it up. It's roughly a 19-hour road trip from Charlotte to Park Jefferson Speedway. Fortunately, I know people who enjoy road trips, just like me. Get in my truck, let's go. And I'm good with that. So they held a race on Saturday with 410 sprints and IMCA modifieds, a doubleheader, but no fans. And this event was under strict guidelines of social distancing. The haulers and trailers were parked a car space in front of each other, away from each other. In other words, you've all seen garage areas and parking in the pit area where haulers and trailers are right next to one another. They were all parked on this one where there was space in between each pit area. There were no fans, so grandstands were empty. Crew members in the pit area were allowed to go up into the stands to view the racetrack, had to practice social distancing, and everybody in the pits had to have gloves and masks on. This is a step in the right direction. Racing needs to get going again. For the industry to survive, there's a lot of businesses that rely on racing to survive. Racing relies on those businesses to survive. We could have a little pause in the action, but we do need to entertain and figure out how to get things going again. The entire country is not being affected by this virus in the same way. There's very strong populated points of the country that are affected very heavily, and there's other areas of the country where there's minimal effect on it. So we really have to act locally on this. I am hoping more and more tracks can get going. This will help the entire auto racing industry. As far as NASCAR is looking, the National Series, we told you last week that Martinsville's weekend was postponed. That was May 8th and 9th. We are looking to come to the weekend back from that. As I glance over to my calendar here, I believe that would be May 17th. We are looking to race there in Darlington, South Carolina, with no fans. That is the discussion point right now. Now, here in North Carolina, the stay-at-home order was originally placed through April 29th, which, if you're watching us live, is Wednesday of this week. Governor Roy Cooper extended that stay-at-home order to May 8th, which would be a week from Friday if you're watching us live. That puts them just over a week where they have out before the teams race in Darlington, South Carolina. Governor Cooper has deemed that NASCAR teams are an essential business here in North Carolina. Auto repair is an essential business. These guys are working on race cars, so that's a car. you do maintain them and repair them, it would fall under the guidelines of an essential business, strictly how it's written. I believe Governor Cooper is aware of how strong NASCAR is to the economy here in North Carolina and our neighboring states. So that's certainly a factor as well. What you can look at out of NASCAR are more one-day shows for the rest of the year, or possibly two-day shows. We will group races close here to Charlotte that are within a day's drive and be racing multiple times per week. This has been the talk for years as to who's going to pull the trigger and pull a midweek race for NASCAR's National Series. We've seen it Thursday night, Wednesday nights be successful. The dirt race at Eldora for the Truck Series. We've seen some midweek races here and there, the Thursday qualifiers at Daytona, the Indianapolis Raceway Park week when it backed up a little bit when the Brickyard 400 was originally run on a Saturday. So what you're going to see is a geographical cluster of races that if they're within a day's drive of Charlotte, we are still going to try to get all 36 Cup races in this year. The schedule pretty much be popped. I don't know what it looks like. I haven't seen a copy of that, but just common sense math in my head says this is going to be something. As all the racing that you've missed up till this point, you're going to get your fill when we finally get on track again. Now, none of this is a go yet. The discussion point is Darlington, South Carolina with no fans. Possibly the week after that, the Coke 600 with no fans. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a midweek show close to Charlotte between Darlington and Charlotte those two Sundays. But don't quote me on any of this. And as we go this live on April 27th, I wouldn't be surprised if it changes if you're catching this on a podcast. This is definitely a moving target. The schedule is fluid, and it goes off of COVID-19. That is fluid. It rises, it falls, it goes through waves. We're trying to protect the health of everybody, yet the economic impact is pretty disastrous right now. Where's the balance? Your guess is as good as mine. Feel free to throw it in the comments if you had a great idea on how we should do it. What me as armchair quarterback sees is we did not go into a quarantine situation overnight. The restrictions gradually came in 1 week, then midweek, then the following week, and we eventually went into a quarantine isolation mode. I can see that just as the armchair American citizen going in a reverse direction. Don't just open everything up, but let's relax the restrictions. If we can go a week or two with the COVID-19 curve staying flattened or not increasing, we can release the restrictions a little bit more the following week. See how we do. If we're not putting people's lives at risk, let's get the economy back rolling again, which is certainly a big part of where I am near Charlotte. The industry here is worth billions, literally billions with a B, to the local economy here in the Charlotte area. With NASCAR, the thousands of people that make their living at it, the paychecks, what they are to the economy, you get it. You understand wherever you're watching from, wherever you're living, there's an industry that's very popular and a big impact on your economy. Where I am near Charlotte, NASCAR's it. It's a huge part of what we do down here. It's part of the local economy. I'm excited to get things rolling and get back to a racetrack. That's why I was so jacked for that sprint car race in South Dakota over the weekend. And even more good news, Ryan Newman has been cleared to race medically. So NASCAR has announced today that he will be cleared to race. He can get back in the 6 car whenever we go back racing again. He said on the iRace at Talladega on Sunday he'll be back. As of Sunday, he was not medically cleared to race. As of today, Monday, yes, he got the clearance to race from that awful crash at the Daytona 500, which seems like so long ago. It seems like so long ago, back in February, and now here we are in late April, and he's coming back, and he's ready to race. Hasn't missed too many races either, just a few. So he can certainly play a factor in race winning and the championship as we go forward. It'd be great if he is behind the wheel of a car at Darlington. I want to give a hat tip to Motor Week Illustrated and Dave Despain. They are the roots of the format of this show as to what we cover, which is really If you got an engine and 4 wheels, I am game. Spain even like the 2 wheels, but I don't know much about motorcycles. I don't want to pretend that I know about motorcycle racing, start talking about it, and I really don't get it. But as our Speedway Report Racer of the Week, I am going to give it to a guy who is a former guest on this show. We had him on here a few years ago in the weeks leading up to the World Finals. Sprint car guy, long history with the World of Outlaws and the All-Stars and the Big Wings and 410 sprint cars. He helped organize. This was his brainchild up in South Dakota to get racing back on track, start something anyway, with no fans at least, but it was live on the internet. It was racing back to giving us a sense of normalcy. Terry McCarl put this together, former World of Outlaws star. It was a pleasure to have him on the show here a few years ago as a guest. Great sense of humor. It was fun talking to him at the Charlotte Dirt Track. Terry McCarl is the Speedway Report Racer of the Week. In between our broadcasts, keep up on our archived shows at SpeedwayReport.com. If you want to check out a past show, they're all right there. Just go to SpeedwayReport.com. Catch up with me on the social media networks. On Facebook, the show has a page where you're watching live right now, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds. They are also archived on the Racers Reunion Facebook page. On Twitter, I'm at Speedway Report and at Speedway Pat. And if you still go to RacersReunion.com, tons of pages on racing history, drag racing, and stock car racing. Go to the forum, and we are archived there. Like I told you, I'll fix YouTube as soon as I can. I want to thank all of the military, past and present, for the freedoms we enjoy as Americans in our daily life, including the simple things like bench racing right here on a Monday night. Freedom is not free, and a veteran paid that bill for us. To all of the men and women who are defending freedom and watching Speedway Report, take care of yourselves and come home soon. And so emphasized in this time of this health crisis, a big special salute, big hug and kiss to the teachers, school staff, firefighters, police officers, and paramedics in our own communities. They are quiet and modest heroes every single day. God bless and thank each and every one of you. You have been watching Speedway Report from the shores of Lake Norman and Race City, USA, Mooresville, North Carolina. Please like our Facebook page, Speedway Report with Patrick Reynolds, and you can follow me on Twitter at SpeedwayPat. Now, if you're on Facebook Live right now, jump on over to the Drag Racing List page, because Drag List Live is coming up in about 7 minutes at the top of the hour. BP, JB, and our good friend BS, they're all there with the drag racing talk. Now, I'll be back live here on Facebook Monday, May the 4th, as we begin the month of May, and it just won't be the same as the previous month of May. It's still the month of May, but it doesn't mean the same. This is Christmas for racers. Not so much in 2020, but we'll have the latest updates on whatever's happening with the pandemic, our industry, racing, and hopefully we've got a little bit brighter light at the end of the tunnel, and I look forward to getting everybody back on track. Big thanks to everyone watching tonight. You take care of yourselves and take care of each other, and I'll see y'all next week.